In this episode of Throttle Stop Garage, we take this pipe manifold from a tack stage to fully welded. Stay tuned. So in the last several episodes of Throttle Stop Garage, we've had a detailed look at how we get the plastic model developed inside the engine bay. Then we transferred those plastic models and committed them into 321 stainless steel pipe. We've only tacked those up, right? So we've got lots of tacks. I prefer lots of tacks to just a few, never hurts. And now we're gonna get going on the welding. So we're gonna do 2 passes on this job. There's no real reason other than I'm not a full-time welder. At least it's been an awful long time since I have been. So I'm gonna do the best that I can. So I don't do this every day. In fact, I don't really TIG weld very often anymore. And it's difficult. So I guess if you're a full-timer, you could probably single pass this, no problem. It's only a little under 1/8 of an inch thick, so a little under 3 mil thick for the thickness of the pipe. But for those of us that don't do this all the time, it is more challenging to do it in a single pass. Just simply would be quicker. So we're going to do it in 2 passes. So we're going to put a root pass in where we're simply going to fuse the root. So I've spent quite a bit of time when I was fitting things up to make sure that my fit up was nice and tight. So everything in here is as tight as I could get it. And that'll allow a fuse to actually happen. So we're just going to run a pretty low amperage actually just to melt that 1/16 of an inch. We're just going to melt that in, right, all the way around. We're going to try to keep the heat down. Stainless steel really doesn't like heat, so you have to try to keep the heat down. So you're going to do little bits, you're going to pause, you're going to cool a lot, which is really frustrating when you're trying to, say, for example, get anything done. But at Throttle Stop Garage, we're never all that concerned about getting anything done. It'll get done when it gets done. All right, let's have a look at it and see how we do.
Yeah, it's become a bit of a mantra here at Throttle Stop Garage where we're going to clean, and clean again. So I have a brand new wire wheel in the die grinder, and I have a brand new wire brush, and I'm working on these parts with some acetone. I'm cleaning my welding wire, and that's all before I'm getting going with the welding here now. I had to stop using that blowgun because it was causing problems, but I was trying to save time. You get impatient when you do this kind of welding because you have to weld an inch or so and then you have to walk away. Yeah, so I struggle with the torch angle a lot on the job initially just because they're very difficult positions to get your hands into and convince yourself you can weld.
I'm not too sure if I'm just not happy. I don't think I was happy with the fit before, but I've now got it so that we're nicely into the merge, but I'm out quite a bit down on the flange. So I'm going to cut off this last piece and redo that section. And in the meantime, I've gone ahead and worked a little bit on my weld process. Again, probably there, you can see that down the tube now. So it's just hood time. It's not settings, it's not anything. It's just hood time. So I haven't done this a lot. So I just needed a little bit more time to perfect the technique. I'm happier with it now. And this tube, of course, just up and in, and it fit perfectly before. It'll fit perfectly when I'm done. So I'm pretty sure this was just a tube that was the first tube that I fit up, and I don't think I did a good enough job of it when I fit it up. So again, I've just trimmed this angle on the elbow to get it to fit here better. I don't want to deal with great big gaps and stuff. It just makes your finished product look ugly. And then I'm going to cut that off and then make one a little bit longer, and we'll fit it up properly. All right, here we go.
Yeah, I didn't really show any of that sort of fitting when I was doing it because it's not exciting as you see here, but I left it in just for giggles this time. So you can see that get yourself one of these little Wilton vices. They're just brilliant for this kind of work. They're just nice and square, and you can clamp them in things, and they make your life a lot easier. So here I am fussing around for another hour probably, getting this particular tube fit. Like, none of this is magic, right? All of this takes way longer than you think it will. But actually correcting this tube, a lot less time than fiddling around with a poorly fitted tube and making sure that everything's all right. Now, I mean, maybe you can get away with it, and a little bit later I'm going to show you me getting away with it. It just all depends on your level of insanity. Like, what is it that you want to do with your process? So anyway, so here we are, just fusing that root in again. Whenever I've got that filler wire in my hand, it's just on the off chance that I'm actually looking to keyhole that fused joint right at the bottom just a little bit, right? Like, and it's just a delicate dance with the keyhole there, just trying to get it to flood through so you know you're getting it fully penetrated. But if you don't get it fully penetrated, you've got to dab a little wire in there. Anyway, that was getting a little bit frustrating for me, so I stopped. Again, the importance of taking the day off and just walking away from it. And then I figured out, you know what? Half of it was my weld process, that I was actually starting my welds almost randomly along the tube. And you can't, or the pipe. And you can't. You have to start the weld on the pipe, and you have to start it kind of tangent to the either the long or the short angle. So you have to just, so what I'm doing here is correct. So don't start on that short side or the long side of the radius. Start sort of 90 degrees to that, weld either side of that. And that seemed to be the best to keep these the pipe in line and to not have it shrink out of my way and to not have it do anything really foolish. Now, this particular pipe, again, these ones that kind of come up and hook around, then they're the troubling ones. I decided I wanted to take the as cast finish off the elbows, and I wanted to buff everything up, so I got my cheap Chinese pipe polisher, video on that coming up soon, and I got it out and I tried to do it the way I've seen it on YouTube. It didn't work. That was terrible. So I had to switch it around and just take this stupid thing and put it in the vise, and then it worked just fine. Now, this, I've had to modify that particular machine in order to work. Again, I'll have a video released on it, well, as soon as I get around to producing that one, that shows you how to do it. Now, each one of these tubes has taken a fair bit of time to do, but I'm really happy I did it. And the belts that I'm using and the rest of the two, like, good abrasives save time. They don't cost money, they save time. So those green belts that I'm using on the pipe polisher they're a ceramic actually, and they just rip the stainless steel out of there. This didn't really take all that much time. I'm starting with an 80 grit belt going to 120 and then finishing it off with some non-woven belts in the end. So they switch out. Now, yeah, you spend whatever time you want to try to get it nice, but you do what you can. And again, I think this manifold is probably going to be ceramic coated in the end. So, why am I wasting my time doing this? No reason. I just like the way it looks. Again, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to make $1 here, folks. If you're in this game for a living, why are you watching this video? So, anyway, this is if you've never done it before and you're doing it once. And that's the last of that's the finest abrasive. And I actually got some new belts. They were on Amazon. And they are really, really good, and they fit this thing for the non-woven stuff. Not cheap though. They're like $20, $25 a belt, so not inexpensive. But again, they last just about forever, so they worked really well. So all 5 tubes get polished. Everything is all just exactly the way I wanted it. I mean, I went in and redid it and redid it and redid it until I had everything just exactly the way I want it.
Okay, so you can see on the inside of the tube, I've got reasonable penetration. I'm not going to tell you that it's perfect all the way around. It's good enough for this kind of thing. I'm not too concerned about it. It's not 100%. Again, learning. I don't know if you can see that one. There's the odd little spot here and there. I really don't think this is going to be an issue for this. It's penetrated pretty much all the way through. Lessons that I learned along the way as I was doing the root. This was one of the ones that caused me a little bit of trouble. It sure is a whole lot nicer if you do things like if you feather off right at the end. So as you're coming forward, just to try to avoid any little craters at the end, but you're going to get them. Like, we're going to get little craters here and there. As long as they're not too bad, I'm not worried about them. I'm also going to dress the welds so that each one of these root welds is nice and consistent in terms of depth. It's really all I'm looking for, because that's going to make laying in the cap a lot easier. Okay, so having an inconsistent root means that your cap has got to be, you're going to be adding different amounts of wire all the time, and that gets a little frustrating. So again, I'm not a pipe fitter, I'm not a welder, just a guy in a garage trying to get a few things done. Got the first 2 tubes done. They won't be in focus. Focus. Right, well, with the first 2 tubes done, yeah, you can see that the welds are a little rugged. This time I started at the back and I'm going to the front, so you'll never see these ones. These are like the learning ones where I'm figuring out process. That's fine. But yeah, these tubes that do this, that turn around and then go down, they'll shrink. So this one's too short now. Oh, the endless tribulations. So I'm now short. I don't know if you can see this really well, but I'm like a few mil short down here at this end. It's really no big deal, but you know, I just overcooked these joints a little bit too much. I hit them a little bit too fast, or I hit them with too much amperage. I wasn't going too fast. So now, just like everything, there's any number of ways of fixing it, but the best way to fix it is cut this off, just try it again. So yeah, every time you turn around, folks, your jobs are going to just kick you in the head. You get used to it kind of over time, but it all depends on what you want, right? I could have just built a log manifold. It would have been done 3 weeks ago. Anyway, I'm just trying to push myself, and I'm trying to push the quality on the work that I do. So, you know, if I'm going to try to achieve at the highest level, this is just for me too, by the way, right? I've had some comments in the comment section, and I don't advocate that this is for everybody. This is my own adventure. I just invite you in to watch. So there's no real reason to do anything that I've done. Actually, look at, I'm building a 1966 Volvo Amazon. It doesn't need to be carbon fiber. It doesn't need to be any of this stuff, but it needs to do those things just for me. And as long as your car is just about you, then do your own thing, and it's your journey. It's not anyone else's. So anyway,
it didn't take very long to cut this off. I was getting good at it, right? Because the other one that had about the same shape did exactly the same thing. Well, you'd think I'd learn. No, that's not going to happen. Oh, well. Anyway, you hack it, you cut it out of there. That one had already been welded, so it was even harder to fix. So get it all cleaned and tidied up, and cut yourself off a new section that's long enough, or even a little bit too long, just ever so slightly. No, I cut it the right length, but then I fiddled around for whatever. It didn't actually take very long. Again, I think I'm almost getting good at it now that it's done. I then knock the polish on it and head on over and get it all tidied up. And then we'll put all the finish, make it as nice as all the rest of it. Why not? Then you put your chamfer on for your weld prep area, and away you go. Okay, so as I get that tacked up, you can see right there, I've left a little gap. So instead of having it fit tight, I decided I was going to leave this one gapped out just a little bit. I was tacking it up on. You can see the light there just coming through. So I left myself an open route. It didn't shrink. It was fine. It was no big deal. I might advocate actually doing the open route because the penetration is a little easier to get. But live and learn. When I fused the rest of it, that actually worked okay too. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But when I was fitting this one up, I just thought I'm going to leave it just a little bit loose and I'm going to take my time and I'm no longer going to blow on it with the air hose. And I started just welding and then I'd clamp off my purge line and then I'd walk away. Again, you can't see it because I've cut it all here, but whenever I'm coming back, I've probably walked away from that for 15, 20 minutes, sometimes an hour, and let that pipe fully cool so I can put my bare hand on it and then it's fine. So it takes a while to weld it, but it doesn't move. You're just trying to compensate, and don't overcook your stainless. I say it at the start of the video and then I go ahead and do it. So for the rest of these tubes, I was just trying to do sort of one in an evening. So I would come out, weld one, and walk away. And that was as much as you need to get done. Yeah, and the dip count's kind of fun, right? We're just we're keeping it running here. With that, we're just about done with the first 2 tubes. Now I had to lay out and plan those first tubes very carefully because as we start stacking in the other tubes, it gets increasingly difficult to weld that area right in the middle. Right, so it's just impossible to get the runners fit up and fit in there and get it welded. Like runner 3 comes last, no doubt. All right, every once in a while you're going to come into a little problem, and that tube, which fit perfectly before, as I finished welding it, it was just a tiny bit short. So I just spaced it off with a little bit of 3/32, so 2.4 mil wire. Just set it off the edge, tacked it up, and it's like zero problem. That's an old fitting trick from way back in the day. And if you don't get it quite perfect with your tack, which I didn't in that case, you just warm the tack up, move that tube right to where you want it, and then just get off the pedal and it'll cool in place as you hold it. Anyway, that worked out fine and just helped a little bit with the penetration because I could jab it right in there. All right, so now the next 2 tubes are getting fitted, next 2 runners are getting fitted in. They're not too bad to weld. I am having lots of trouble getting in and around my structure of the part of the jig. Like I just can't get parts of this welded. And yes, my welding table does go up and down. I am a firm believer that there's just no chance that your weld is going to be any good if you make it even more complicated by being in the wrong position or being in an uncomfortable position or being in a position that has really bad posture, because it really starts to hurt, especially when you're my age. You young guys, you can probably fold up like a noodle, but I don't fold like a noodle anymore, so I have a table that goes up and down. Yay me. Anyway, now it's starting to get a little bit fun. Yeah, let's get that contraption out of the way so that I can actually get runner number 3 welded in. So in order to make it a little easier, in fact you can see it pull just ever so slightly right there. To make it just a little bit easier on myself, I decided to weld the runner onto the flange first, and then I will weld it into the merge. Now I've changed out my giant cup for one of those long pointy, if you've ever bought the kits for your TIG welder with, the 1 or 2 gas lenses you actually need, and then there's always these ones that are like long and you just think, when am I ever going to use those? I win. I've had them for years, like literally probably a decade, never used them. That day I used them. I needed them. There was no way to weld up that weld. And then I left this last one for myself. Just a nice easy roll around that tube, number 3 there. That's the last weld on this whole job, on the outside anyway. I did fusion weld the inside, but that felt really good. And then I just went back in, finished up those areas that I just couldn't reach because of the contraption that was holding things in place. So now that's all getting done and we're all finished up. Again, given how infrequently I do this, I'm awfully happy with the results. It wasn't easy, but I sure did learn a lot, and it did turn out nicely. Last step is just to drop it very carefully onto this crazy belt sander. This is why I bought the belt sander. And I do have a glass plating that keeps it pretty flat.
All right, so after we pulled it off of the jig and we sanded it flat on the giant sanding machine, now you can see. Again, I went in with a file and then I made sure everything was perfectly flat with the file. And then I just buffed it one more time with some 120 grit sandpaper. And it's dead flat. Right out here at the very, very edges, sort of off the hole, it's about 10 thou, a little less than 10 thou of a little bit of bend to it. So really no big deal. Everything worked out really well. I'm happy with the finish up. And at this point in time, we're just gonna give you a little look inside and show you how it all welded up on the inside. There really wasn't a great way to show you how the inside turned out, but that's not bad. Again, there's little bits of offset in the tube. It wasn't exactly perfect, but it sure did finish up well. So happy there. I just went in and we just took a little grinder in there and just snuck all that out, and looking good to me. There, and that's the little fusion weld that I just did on the inside to clean it up. And I haven't ground those out. There really isn't any point. It's not impeding flow. So off camera, I've welded the inside of the V-band flange, and I've also made sure that I had fusion all the way around here at the connection with the mating flange on the engine. All right, so everything's good. It's actually not as heavy as I thought it was going to end up. I mean, it's not light, but that's not too bad. It's not as, I thought it was going to be worse. And it fits in the car great and right where it's supposed to be. All right, so with that, that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget, keep your stick on the ice. Where's my person that mops my brow? It is about 8 million degrees in here.